We are on our 3-hour layover in Salt Lake City, just did a job. But I wanted to continue off of the nightmare scenario for that guy who just had a potential client with a ton of red flags.
Okay.
Did you watch my vlog?
I watched it, got to hear all about it.
Okay. And just want to make sure. And he ended up not going with that guy. And then he actually got another retainer. But there were so many comments that were talking about, like, you need to price like this, you need to price like that, that I thought this would be a really good discussion I think there's one thing to consider before you do anything in the decision-making tree of how you price. And that is, are you a freelancer or are you a production company? So first off, do you agree with that route, or what am I not thinking of?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to understand the request.
Yeah.
Like, if I get an inquiry that's like, hey, we need a camera off for this, I'm like, I'm not approaching that as a production company, right? That way, so.
And it's like reflexive. Like, I think if you do a bunch of them in this structure, it informs you how to price for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you're the production company, you're hiring contractors who are giving you their pricing structure, and you're like, oh, that's how you're pricing as a
Right.
freelancer?
Well, like for example, too, is you with your retainer.
Yes. Yeah.
You evolved from the freelancer into the production company.
Mm-hmm.
So you went through that whole like experience of how should I be charging for the scope? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in that scenario, the scope was like, filming, editing, and creative.
For my involvement?
No, for the nightmare one.
For the nightmare one?
Not doing well.
Yeah, and that we didn't even know if he was going to be involved in the creative ideation of this.
Yeah.
Because if you are thinking of those, whatever it was, what was it, how many reels? 12 times 6, 72? 72 reels per month. Are you coming up with those ideas, or are those being handed to you?
Yeah.
Because if you're coming up with those, that's like almost double
Yeah.
the price. Is like if we're controlling the campaign creation or the trend following.
Yeah. I think if you're playing more than one role,
yeah,
you should probably consider charging as a production company. Like,
yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
If you're adding post-production into the project scope, then you should probably consider charging like a production company structure. Like, think about all the extra costs that come with that. Like, if you're, first of all, there's the editing time, of course, and then there's the, emailing back and forth about revisions, or maybe setting up calls or revisions, storing that footage somewhere maybe, or if you had to upload it to an editor, there's all of those extra costs that come with it that you should factor into, your production fee or whatever you want to call it, on top of your day rates and your editing rates. I think that's probably the delineation is, am I playing more than one role? Then I should consider charging as a production company.
Yeah, and also, like, it's just the other side of the coin. If I'm saying, am I freelancer or am I production company? Is what is the client? Is the client an agency, or are they an end client?
Yeah.
Because I saw some comments that were saying, like, I would fire that client immediately. Like, basically just sever all communication with them. So I want to talk about two things. So the first one is, like, I'll talk about the second one. I wouldn't let any of that emotion into the answer.
Yeah.
Because you are a professional with a reputation, and if you bite back because you got butthurt about how they treated you, like, you're just as bad.
You're just as bad, and people talk, and it's a small world when you get into like all of these creative agencies and production companies. It might get around and hurt you elsewhere.
And you said it before when we were talking about this. I was just gonna wait for this. So we were talking about this earlier, and you said, it's not like me and you. It's your project scope is not a fit for our services, or our price point of services.
Yeah.
It's just not a match.
Yeah.
Like, no one needs to take that offensively.
Yeah. Not
or
personal
triggered.
attack. Yeah.
It's just we're not a match. Now, I would normally in that case maybe recommend someone to take this job who really, really needed the money, and they're like, I'll deal with a person who's, a little disrespectful.
Yeah.
I just need the cash right now.
Right.
That's fine. But to like take it as a reflection of how they see you, I would never do that. And also justify why you are these prices. Why?
Oh yeah.
Like,
No need.
there's no need.
Right. You want people to hire you because they value you, and you do need to communicate your value, and you should do that in your conversations. Well, you want people to hire you that value you for what you bring to the table, and there's part of the conversation needs to be you communicating what you bring to the table, building that trust with them, that confidence in them before you are saying, here's the price, here's the contract.
Yeah.
You can't just expect somebody to roll up and sign, just because you are a service provider. Like you definitely have to communicate some of that value and build that trust. But, if like that guy was like saying stuff like, I could just learn to do this by my own. It's like, go for it, bro.
Yeah.
Go for it. It's actually interesting because I talked to an agency recently that I was just connected with just to have a conversation. They weren't looking for any specific work out of me, but he was venting to me about this videographer that he's used for a long time. And he's like, yeah, his prices just jumped up, and he's telling me all this stuff about industry standard, and this is just what the standard is, and he was like digging on him, like, why is it so expensive? Like, I feel like video folks are charging so much. And I was just quiet listening to him, like talking about this, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say to you right now, dude. Like, I don't know what the scope was you're talking about. I'm not gonna.
Was he looking for an answer from you?
Everybody's looking for validation. I'm not validating your point at all on this because I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what he's offering. I don't know what his experience is. So it's funny that that's kind of like the similar kind of conversation that your guy was having. That was getting haggled on price or like question about the price.
See, I'm a little lazy on that front. If someone says like you need to justify, and they might need justification internally, like they might need to tell higher up, why did the price change or blah, blah, blah. Like there might be an actual need, or they might be curious, but normally I'm too lazy about it, and I just say like, hey, based on what we've talked about, this is the price. I totally understand if it's not the right fit. I can maybe even recommend someone in place, but I don't go the justification route. One, because it's so like minute and varied of like, what do you want to say? Like, I've done years of experience. Are you going to say what camera I'm on? Like, dude, it's all of it. So I'm not even going to get into one thing because then they're going to attach onto that and be like, well, we know someone else who has been doing it for 3 years and they're great.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, well, I don't want to give you anything to attach onto. So the price is the price. I'm not offended if you don't take it. And I'm not offended if you don't take it. And, like we can just see it if this is a right fit. It's just like fitting budgets with services. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like I want to get a new, you have a Pelican case here, which is like $300, and I want to get a new carry-on, and that one from Peak Design looks amazing, but it's $600, and I don't know if I'm the right fit for that price. That's ridiculous, but some people are. But I'm not gonna like email Peak Design and be like, justify that. Why
is this weird?
Why is it? It's just like, hey, it's not for you.
Can you take a couple of the wheels off?
Yeah. Oh, okay. And we'll wrap up with this. The analogy we were talking about earlier about when you give justification or they start poking holes in like, well, could we lower the price here? Could we lower the price there? I was using the metaphor of you go to a mechanic and you say, I got to fix this. What are they doing? or maybe it's not getting picked up on the cameras
Maybe
or
not.
on the mics, but
Moving chairs.
let's say you go to you're getting your car repaired and you're asking, oh, I need to replace this thing, and they're like, okay, cool, we gotta lift up the engine, we gotta hoist it out. And you go, is that an expensive piece of equipment? Yeah, it's super expensive and it's super niche and we're the only one around that has it. And you go, okay, is the price lower if you manually lift the engine out? Like, I think once you start going that route, they'd be like, hey, we're not a good fit for you.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not even discussing
Because we
that.
know that's a lesser, like, less efficient, less effective, like, lower quality way, less safe, way of doing it.
And that's not how we do it.
Right. That's not our process.
It's just not how we do it. We have figured out our workflow to provide a good service, and that's how ridiculous it sounds when people who are not in our side start trying to pick out things like, well, could we do it on a this camera instead of a this camera? And it's like, hey, we have a workflow that we've just devised that gives us confidence. Once we start pulling things out of it, now I'm less confident.
Right.
For what? This much price reduction?
Yeah.
You need someone who provides that level of service.
Right.
Rather than trying to pick apart our level of service and price.
I was thinking of, like, for the conference job we have coming up, where we kind of got, like,
roped in,
interrogated for it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like handled it pretty well without, like, diving into, like, justification stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's 7 days of conference work, and it's just conference work. Nothing.
No editing. It's a couple of freelance jobs.
It's a couple of freelance job days just like put together. That's like really all it is. And they were like, do you have examples of filming conference stuff? Yeah, here you go. Here's one. Do you have examples of like gimbal at a conference? I'm like, let me ask someone else that I worked for and I'll find that video file. And then they were really hounding you. Do you have sweeping gimbal shots in a conference? And it's like,
yeah.
But we made it through it because we were kind of not giving a lot, and we were just saying like, hey, no, but we are.
We're local. We know this space. We've done this before.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's almost like the more you give them, the more they dissect.
More questions will come up.
Exactly. So. Yeah. That is a job that's coming up in like 2 weeks or so. I'll maybe have a vlog on that, but
we got like interviewed for that.
Yeah, like multiple Zoom calls, and they're like, we might be going with someone else, and I was like, okay, just let us know if you.
I do think the one thing, I know we said we were wrapping up, but the one thing that put us over, that like got that one locked in, was the simple. I mean, I'm not trying to give myself credit here. You did a lot of the quoting, and they came to you first. But it was hey, I'll just be a utility for 2 of the days so we can keep the crew sane.
Yeah, so
we don't have to mess around with that.
We have 5 days of, like, we need 2 camera guys, and then the first day and the last day, they're like, we need 1 camera guy and 1 assistant thing. And so I could have looked for someone else to fill the assistant role, but Adam jumped in and said, no, I'll just drop my rate on day 1 and 7, and then full rate for day 2 through 5. And that probably did make something easier on their side, where they're like, oh, we don't have to interrogate a third person
exactly.
to be a utility or an assistant. Yeah.
Just like a small suggestion that like it was gonna improve the production a little bit, because then we'd be a little bit more familiar with each other, and we'd have the same familiar faces and personalities on set.
And again, that's letting us use our workflow. You pull out one of us to be the utility, it's like, I don't know who they are, I don't know how they work. Like, know, you're messing up the workflow. I know if you're the assistant, the quality stays the same. But yeah.
And you'll probably get a little bit more out of it, because I'm not an assistant or a utility usually. Like, I'll be able to do other stuff on there if needed.
Not gonna lie, I didn't like that process, being the production company on that. I was like, kind of just want Adam to do this, and then him just hire me, and I'll just get a like slightly less rate, and but just so much less
You charge a
headache.
production fee?
I did not charge a production fee. So no, see, that was the thing, is like the client came in as like, can we hire you? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, can we hire someone else? And then it just started to feel more like a production company service.
Right.
And like, so there was no production fee added on, like a generic fee to like give padding and stuff. Everything was like line items of like, this is going to be the parking, this is going to be this and that.
Right.
So like that is a way where like sometimes I get weaseled out of my pricing structure when I'm like, oh, I started as freelancer pricing.
Yeah. It's hard because, and like I just feel like the easiest is when post-production's added in. It's like, okay, done. I'm charging as a production company.
Yeah.
There's going to be the production fee in here. When you're, yeah, I mean, you're dancing on that one because you are doing some extra work by like confirming schedules with us, and you're.
Mm-hmm. It's not too much.
It's not too much, and they're not.
But so
this
this is kind of the thing, and I guess you're even before you just decide, are you a freelancer in this role or are you a production company in this role, is full understanding of their scope.
Yeah.
Then you can make the decisions easy, and you don't have to like jump backwards into different pricing. So I recommend asking a bunch of questions.
As many questions
as you can. And if they're like, yeah, but we need a number up front, like I still like to say like, oh, we can offer a range. This based on the information I have now.
Yeah.
You could even say this sounds between like 5K and 15K. Just to give context of them being like, oh, we were thinking 2K. And it's like, oh, great. Well, now we're not wasting each other's time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't even have to build the quote.
Or they need to reset their expectations.
Yeah.
You know.
So if they're going to be hard up front of like, we need numbers, yeah, I'll do a range. But right after that, or maybe not even that, I just need to understand what you guys want. And I do that with, do you guys have examples? Have you done this thing before? You know, what are we trying to improve on? What were the pain points the last time? Or does someone else do this that you really like? And then you can start building kind of what they want, because sometimes they don't express it eloquently. But if you have the deliverable examples, it's like, oh, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Oh, that needs at least 3 people, and that needs this and that. Like now we're filtering it through our heads.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll cut it there.
Okay.
And the next time I travel with you, which won't be long. If we have another 3-hour layover, we can talk about something else.
Should be in our seats on the plane.
Yeah.
Just chatting.
So we're
These guys won't shut
just wrapping up in, where are we? Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
And there's no one here.